It's Tuesday, June 5th, bowling night, here on Guy's Daily Drive. And hello. As I said, it is Tuesday, which means that I am currently on my way to the bowling lanes, where I will most likely embarrass myself in front of all of my colleagues because my bowling skills are non-existent. Something I wanted to talk about is anger. Anger poisons the soul. And I try not to let anger get the better of me, but sometimes things happen that just make you explode. Recently, well, it wasn't last weekend, but it was weekend before then. I was taking Guy to work in the morning, and on my way back, this very stupid girl, and I don't really know how else to describe this girl, decided that her time was more important than anyone else's and used left-hand turn lanes to skip ahead of a few cars. And when she did it the first time, I was thinking, okay, maybe she just made a mistake and she thought she had to make a left turn, but then really didn't. But then she went ahead and did it to me. And we spent the next 5 minutes or so careening down the road, screaming at each other and making hand gestures and all kinds of things. And I put it up on YouTube for Patreon supporters, but I rewatched it recently, and I really don't come off very well. I don't come off on that well at all. And with it now being firmly in the past, I regret that I let the stupid actions of this idiot girl push me into such feelings of rage. And that's really what it was. It was utter and total rage. And I don't usually get like that. You know, I'm a big person, and it's not in my best interests to be an angry person. Number one, I don't want to be an angry person. Number two, when you're as big as I am, that can be, being that kind of angry person can be frightening to other people. And that's really not what I want to do. That's not the kind of person that I am, and it never has been. But it's not the first time that I've gotten that angry before. And usually when I get that mad, it's because of someone else's, not even so much blatant stupidity, stupid behavior I can excuse. Blatant stupid behavior where you purposely do something that is just so over the top stupid that it really makes me question what kind of person you must be. And I'm going to give you an example. One of the jobs I worked at just before joining back with where I am now, this was early 90s. And I was working for this company, and we had a bunch of people. We were all electronic technicians, and they had about probably 3 times as many people than they really needed. So people would get their work assignments when we came in the morning. Most everybody would be done within an hour, maybe 2 hours. And then everyone would spend the next 6 hours, and this is not a joke. They would spend the next 6 hours hiding in electrical closets. Now, remember, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have much in the way of electronic entertainment other than like Game Boys. So most people would read books or the newspaper or what have you. And the reason why I bring up newspapers is because of what happened and why I got so angry near the end of my employment there. Now, I wasn't fired. I quit to go to the position that I held on to for many, many years. So very early on working for this company, I noticed that guys would bring in like 5 to 10 newspapers when they walked in the morning and passed them out to their friends. So I knew that the only place to get newspapers was in the vending machines. And for people who don't know how this works, you basically, papers were a quarter at the time. You would basically put a quarter into a slot, the door, you could open the door, and when you opened the door, you took out a paper. Now, there were usually anywhere from 10 to 25 papers inside of this box, and the people who owned the box, which was typically not the newspaper, it was, these were concessions. People would buy the rights to have these boxes. They would assume that you, not being a jerk, would take just one paper. But that's not what these guys were doing. They were taking 5 to 10 papers for 25 cents. Now, all of those papers that were out of that box had to be paid for by the person who owned the box. So taking, say you took 5 papers and you only paid for 1 paper at a quarter, that meant that $1 from the person who owns that box had to be paid out without any compensation. So as we were, it was like my last week there, and I had pretty much just had it with this place and most of the people that worked there. And it was during this particular time when the Redskins had their last big Super Bowl run. So the Washington Post had a writer who was doing this whole Redskins bandwagon thing. And in this particular paper, it was on a Friday, there was a bumper sticker that was included in each paper. It said Redskins bandwagon. And so I get into work, and as I'm sitting there, one of the guys comes in along with one of the supervisors. This is one of the supervisors. Comes in, 10 newspapers. 10 newspapers. Because they got that many because it had the bumper stickers. Everybody wanted a bumper sticker. You couldn't spend 25 cents to get one. And I knew that's exactly what they had done, that they hadn't put in, 25 cents per paper, that they just put in a quarter and took out 10 papers. So I asked him, I said, you paid for those papers, right? And he laughed and said, oh yeah, sure, I paid for them. And I knew he hadn't. He knew he hadn't. But I was willing to let the illusion lie, just like that. But then he laughed again and said, no, I didn't pay for these papers. So I stopped and I looked at him and I said, okay, so I guess that makes you an effing thief. You can choose which F word you want to put in for effing. And this kid was probably half my size, but he was standing next to one of the supervisors, so he was all big and brave. And he starts giving me a bunch of crap about it. And the rage level just increased. And it was all I could do from just going over there and pounding the crap out of this dumbass kid. Then I stopped and I told myself, you are never, ever going to see these idiots again. And that was the only thing that kept me from just pounding the crap out of this kid. So a little time goes by. This is the same, like we come into work the next week, and I was starting to come down with the flu, which really didn't help. And we had this guy working for us who really thought well of himself. Just thought he was the smartest thing ever. And he was sitting there telling me that Coca-Cola had patented the particular shade of red that they used in their products. Now, I don't know anything about patent law, but that just seemed ridiculous. I've since been told that it very well may be true, but it just sounded like complete and utter nonsense to me at the time. So I kind of challenged him on it, and I said, what are you talking about? You can't patent a color. And his response was typical in that he said, I was a marketing major in college, so therefore you must believe me when I say these things. Well, I hated to break it to him, but I don't have to believe anything from anyone that isn't proven. So that's basically what I told him. I said, yeah, I'm not going to believe that. You have to show me some kind of proof. Now, at the same time, there was a right-wing radio host who was involved in some scandals with the Reagan administration named Oliver North, and he had a radio show. Very conservative right-wing radio show. And I knew how this guy felt about Oliver North. So when he said what he said next, I knew exactly what it was he was saying. He basically said, okay, Ollie, to me. And what this meant in his crazy little mind was that I was a fascist. Listen, seriously, I was a fascist for not believing that Coca-Cola had patented the particular shade of red in their stuff, and that he was telling the truth. That I was a fascist. And again, blood pressure through the roof. I picked up a book, paperback, thank God, tossed it at his head, and then started to follow that up. I had it. I was going to get this guy. And the guy that got me the position that I was going to next also worked there. And he's easily as big as I am. He steps in front of me and says, come on, guy, let's go have a smoke. So he kind of half pushes me outside. And he's like, what is wrong with you? You're never going to see these people again. What do you care? What stupid crap that they say. Why do you care? And I had to admit that he was right. Didn't apologize to the guy because I didn't care. But for the rest of my time working that job, I just kept my mouth shut because it just didn't really matter. And honestly, in most cases where people get so worked up, and you can see it all over YouTube, where they're enraged by something, by almost anything. Some of these people have hair triggers when it comes to rage. Typically, it isn't worth it. It doesn't matter. And they're not going to change the minds of whoever it is that they're enraged against. So, please take that to heart the next time you feel like you're just going to lose your crap. And try not to do that. It just doesn't help. If you'd like to get a hold of me, all you have to do is send me an email, guy@mymac.com, probably, or guy@mttfgo.com. You can also reach me through a Skype number, 703-436-9501. And you can find me on the weekends. I do a podcast with Gazmaz, the MyMac Podcast. That's once a week. And I do a live cast on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over there on the Faces of Book with Warren Sklar called Mac to the Future Go. So if you look me up, Guy Searle, over there on the Facebooks, you can probably find my live cast on Wednesday nights. Next month, something is going to happen that will not enrage me, and that is the MacStock Conference and Expo, July 21st and 22nd in Woodstock, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Coupon code MyMac, all one word, MYMAC, will get you $70 off the entire weekend package. That's all the sessions on Saturday, all the sessions on Sunday, the deeper dive sessions, the Saturday night shindig that Barry Falk is putting together, everything. $179. Now, of course, transportation, food outside of the venue, and lodging is on you, but everything else taken care of. You don't want to miss this. I've been going for the last 3 years. It is a blast. This year is going to be no exception. And I'm not going to go on and on about it because I'm starting to relate and I got to go bowling. So, thank you for watching. I will catch you next time here on Guy's Daily Drive.